RPGaDay always has room for one more, especially if that one more thing is a role-playing game. It's the 26th of August, which gives us the 26th question for RPGaDay for the year 2017. And our question is, which RPG provides the most useful resources? It's up to us what we mean by resources when we answer this question. Could be anything. Could be miles and miles of splat books. It could be a highly detailed atlas. It could be some kind of app support. Doesn't matter. What, in your opinion, are useful resources? Which RPG provides you with them? On this channel, a recurring theme is learning new games or challenging our preconceptions about the games we play. So I felt that it would be appropriate for me to define resources for my answer to this question as being related to learning games, and that led me to the idea of examples of play. Now, we don't find examples of play in every game out there, but I find they're extremely useful, particularly when a game is entirely new to you, like the system is completely unfamiliar. Getting a sense of the context of play, as well as the implied culture of play, I feel it comes across a lot better with an example of play. Now, for example, obviously I'm a huge proponent of the Ubiquity role-playing system. It features a lot in videos on this channel. This is a game system I consider to be quite simple. That said, when I first read through it, there were questions that I had, and these were questions that were pretty much completely answered by the example of play presented in Grimalkin's Designs license of the Ubiquity system for Desolation. This was the second Ubiquity game published. Their example of play contains jokes, which we still make around my Ubiquity tables today. It clearly communicated a detail which is very important to me, which is the shifts that are going to happen between in-character play and out-of-character play when playing the game. And it had enough different character types involved that we had a good sense of the basic rules, how they were applied. Combining that with the example of play which was in the original Ubiquity game, Hollow Earth Expedition, answered all my questions really about how to play the game. It just was a question of actually playing it after that to make everything stick. Now, I would cite the example of play in Desolation as being the one which helped me the most. This was a superior resource in the way that it covered all the bases of play, giving you a really clear sense of playing Ubiquity at a table with people who were familiar with it. I liked that a lot. Now, this is not a resource that will carry on, really. It's not something that you would continually refer to like a gazetteer or an atlas, but at the same time, it's the basis from which your understanding of play comes from. And it's a resource you can go back to every time you want to introduce a new player to the game. So I think it's important. Another example of an exemplary example of play you can find in Worlds in Peril, which is produced by Samjoko Publishing. Now, Worlds in Peril is another game powered by the apocalypse, this time powered for superhero roleplay. And so, appropriately, they chose to do their example of play with a comic. And this comic presents both sides of the story. We get the fiction, the story being created by play around the table, and we get the play around the table, and we can compare the two. We can see the mechanics presented to us. We can hear the out-of-character questions that frame how everything plays out, and we can see the result in fiction, portrayed superheroically. And I find that this approach, well, it's even more rare than the actual example of play, is extremely effective in communicating to a new player what a role-playing game is, what a newcomer to the game system, of how that game system plays, it's just a fantastic way to go about it. And something I would like to see more of, although, again, it uses a lot of pages and is a very expensive use of those pages, as it involves a lot from an artist and a writer working together to communicate these new concepts well. So, that's my opinion on today's question about most useful resources. Tomorrow, August 27th, rears its head and puts us in very close striking distance to the end of RPGaDay. RPGaDay is sponsored this year by the RPG Brigade. The RPG Brigade sponsors BrigadeCon, and BrigadeCon supports Child's Play, 24 hours of gaming to raise money to help children in hospital.